WWE was sold out tonight in Atlanta. They are already sold out for Orlando for SmackDown this upcoming Friday. And I cannot remember a time where WWE in the same week sold out Raw and SmackDown days in advance the way that they have done this week. I cannot remember the last time that happened. I had a friend who was in the building tonight. You might know him, my good buddy Webmaster Mike. He was at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta tonight for the show. He texted me during the show and said that this was the hottest crowd that he has been part of in a decade, which is surprising. I mean, they were very loud tonight. I didn't know they were that loud, but they were definitely the MVPs of the night. This was a very lively bunch for what overall I thought was a very good episode of Monday Night Raw. I would even go so far, frankly, as to say that this was the best Raw that I have seen in months. I actually had a lot of fun watching this show tonight. Now, we had in the main event Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn defending their tag team championships against Damian Priest and Dominik Mysterio of the Judgment Day, a match that I thought would happen at SummerSlam. And instead, we got the match tonight here on Raw. So I don't know exactly what Owens and Zayn are going to be doing at SummerSlam unless they run this match back. I don't know that there's really a need for it after tonight. But they had a hell of a main event to close out the show tonight. Very hot match, very good match. And one of many, actually, on this show. We had Brock Lesnar making an appearance. He doesn't do very many of those, but he was on the show tonight to answer the SummerSlam challenge of Cody Rhodes. And not only did he answer the SummerSlam challenge of Cody Rhodes, he embarrassed Cody Rhodes in his own hometown. Cody was in his home state of Georgia. He grew up in Marietta, which I think is a suburb of Atlanta, basically his hometown. These were his people, and Brock Lesnar embarrassed him in his hometown. But he did accept the challenge, so we do have it official now for SummerSlam. It'll be Cody and Brock, Part 3. We'll talk about that and whether or not we have a stipulation for the match. We also have new women's tag team champions. So we did not have a tag team title change in the main event, but we do have new women's tag team champions, which ends the reign of Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez at a whopping 2.5 weeks since they regained those titles in Money in the Bank. We had a Viking Rules match on this show with the Alpha Academy and the Viking Raiders. I lost track at this point how many matches these two teams have had. And yet they went out there tonight. They had the best match of all the matches they've had so far. They saved the best, I say for last, hopefully for last. I mean, we've seen enough of this. But again, there were different instances on this show with matches that were very good. And the segments that were in between largely served a purpose, which was to build to matches that are either official now or will be official for SummerSlam. Very little filler on this show. It passed by a lot quicker than Raw does on most weeks, and so when it was all over, I was pretty happy with it. I don't say that very often about this show, but I thought it was a very good show tonight. This is your Monday Night Raw review for Monday, July 17, 2023. I am the Solomonster. Thank you so much for joining me here on a Monday night as we kick off a brand new week. And one way that you can kick off this brand new week is to subscribe. If you are not a subscriber, is to like, if you have not already liked the video. 400 likes is the goal that I have set tonight for us to do our Be the Booker segment a little bit later on. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. Also, I'll be reading your super chats. Let me know what you thought of the show tonight. Did you enjoy Monday Night Raw or not? Drop a super chat. Let me know about that or anything else you want to talk about. And we'll go through those messages a little bit later on. You can also join our channel member family, be a part of our Green World Order. If you want to become a channel member or gift memberships to other people, you may go ahead and do so. And I want to give a shout out here before we get going to a very special lady. And that is not the lady I was going to shout out, but there she is, Brie Bella, already joining us here on the stream. Now who's that? Is that the 0 point? I want to shout out Lady Fire Panda. Before I went live tonight, already dropped $75 on Super Chat and gifted 11 channel memberships. That's 11 new people who are now part of our little family. So Fire Panda, thank you. Now, I do have a bit of news here very quickly before we get into the actual review. Some news that broke here during Raw tonight, in fact. It was reported by Variety that Peacock, which of course is the home, at least here in the States, is the home to the WWE Network. Basically, they took the network, they put it on Peacock. Peacock, for the first time since it launched in 2020, is raising its rates. It is raising its prices beginning August 17th for existing members who are already subscribed. For new people who sign up for Peacock, it's immediate. But if you're a Peacock subscriber, effective August 17th, not a huge increase, but an increase nonetheless. If you have Peacock Premium with ads, the cost per month is going up by $1. It'll be $5.99 a month. And for those of you with Peacock Premium Plus with no ads or very few ads, it is going up by $2 each month to $11.99. So if you want your Peacock, if you want your WWE content, you're going to have to pay more for it. So there you go. For those of you who may be wondering, why'd my bill go up? It's not a huge increase, but be aware that it is going up. So Cody Rhodes, I mentioned that they were in Cody's hometown here. This was Cody's stomping grounds here in Atlanta, GA. So he opened the show tonight, coming out to the ring. Of course, he got a hero's welcome. Came out. He wanted to know what the folks in Atlanta wanted to talk about here on this show. He said that we didn't really need to talk because there's a large shadow looming over everything here in the arena in the form of Brock Lesnar. So he called out Lesnar to accept his challenge for SummerSlam. He didn't want to wait. He wanted Brock to come out here right at the beginning of the show. No Brock. Brock did not come out. So the fans booed. Cody assumed that Brock would be fashionably late. He said, look, it doesn't matter if Lesnar shows up at 9 o'clock. It doesn't matter if he shows up at 10 o'clock. It don't matter if he shows up at the very end of the show. He is not going to leave this ring. He will be in this ring waiting for him. He said, we know this is the place that built him being Cody, but the woman who built him, the woman who birthed him, was in the front row. He pointed out his mother, Michelle, who was in the front row tonight. He said his relationship with Brock Lesnar has been a complex one. I'll bet. Guy still has no idea why Brock attacked him in the first place. I'd say that's pretty complex. He said the two words that it makes him think of is hard times. But it's okay because when Brock shows up, it will not be hard times for him. It will be hard times for Brock Lesnar. And he thanked the audience and he told them to enjoy Monday Night Raw. He said, we know this is the place that built, well, I already mentioned that part. Enjoy Monday Night Raw. I was so excited by his promo, I was about to repeat everything he just said. But no, he told us to enjoy the rest of the show here. So he went out of the ring. He went to go hug his mom in the front row, right? I got to go hug mom. And there were a few other people. I'm not sure if they were family or maybe it was just friends. But he hugged his mother in the front row when all of a sudden, Brock Lesnar's music hits. Now, the minute they showed Cody's mom in the front row, you had to know, okay, there's going to be some involvement going on here. I'm not saying Brock's going to come out and put, Cody's mom in a Kimura lock, although that would have been cool just to see. But you knew that something was going to happen in front of this woman, right? You had to think. So we hear Brock's music. So Cody goes and he's squaring up. He's standing at the head of the aisleway here. He's waiting for Brock to come out. Brock doesn't come out. They stop the music. There's no Brock Lesnar. So the fans begin to boo. So Cody goes to leave. And again, they play Brock's theme music. So now Cody he's all the way on stage. He's like, fuck this. I'm going to go get Brock. He walks to the back and he disappears and we don't see Cody. All of a sudden, we see a chair get thrown out from the back. And then we see Cody being tossed around by Brock Lesnar. They brawl out into the arena. So there's Brock. And Brock Lesnar picks up the steel chair. See, it was a trap. Brock set a trap and Cody fell right into it. Brock picks up the chair. He smacks Cody across the back with it a few times, all the way back down to ringside. He drove Cody backwards, spine first, into the ring post. Then he picked up Cody. He delivered an F5. Now, he had Cody on his shoulders. And as he has Cody on his shoulders, he's staring right at Cody's mom because it's right in front of her, right on the outside of the ring. He delivers an F5 to Cody on the floor, right in front of his mother. Then he applied a Kimura lock. He teased breaking his arm again. I mean, here Cody just got his cast off only a few weeks ago. He's teasing that he's going to break his arm in the Kimura, but he gives it up. He lets go of the Kimura lock. He puts Cody in the ring. He reapplies the Kimura in the ring. And again, he releases the hold without actually breaking Cody's arm. Brock stands up. He leans over Cody and he says, "Challenge accepted. I'll see you at SummerSlam, bitch." So there it is. It is official. Cody and Brock, Part 3 at SummerSlam. And with that, Brock left and we didn't see him again for the rest of the night. So Brock Lesnar ruined Cody's homecoming here in Atlanta. He gave him the Zach Gowen treatment. You believe it's been 20 years? It was 20 years ago this year. It might be 20 years ago to the month, now that I think about it. I'm almost positive. I think it was July or August, right, of 2003. It was sometime in the summer, I think, that Brock Lesnar brutalized Zach Gowen. For those who don't remember, Zach Gowen was the one-legged wrestler that WWE signed in 2003. And there was a segment on SmackDown when Brock Lesnar was sort of unified with Vince McMahon. Because Vince was feuding with Zach Gowen. And Brock Lesnar beat the hell out of this kid. And he gave him an F5 with his other leg into the ring post on the outside, right in front of Zach Gowen's mother in the front row, who did not look like she had a career as a master thespian either. So Brock Lesnar, I guess the moral of the story here, because we've seen Brock kill Zach Gowen in front of his mom. Now we've seen him kill Cody in front of his mom. I think the moral of the story here, best to leave the family at home if you are feuding with Brock Lesnar. I honestly, I'm kind of disappointed that Brock didn't reach over the barricade and grab one of those other guys that were in the front row that Cody went over to go hug. Again, I don't know if it was family. I don't know if they were friends. I thought Brock maybe would put his hands on some of them, but he didn't do that. Brock didn't do that. So look, this was a simple angle, right? Very simple stuff, but it was a strong angle to set up their SummerSlam match, put some heat on Brock by beating up Cody in front of his hometown.
Gunther. Jerry Lawler loves Gunther. The
Look who it is.
All hail Gunther.
All hail Zachariah, who just dropped a $50 Gunther bomb. We're not even out of the opening segment yet. Zachariah, thank you very much, man. That just woke me up. I was already up, but you woke me up. You woke me up. You got my blood pumping here. There you go. Zachariah Sitchin with the $50. Zachariah, thank you. Simple angle, but a strong one. No mention of a stipulation for their match at SummerSlam. We know there'll be some kind of stipulation. We don't know what it is. We've talked about what the possibilities could be. They could go, back into the dusty playbook and go with something old school like a bull rope match. One thing that I had recommended weeks ago, I had suggested a stipulation that we have not seen them use since October of last year at Extreme Rules. We had the first ever fight pit match on the main roster, a concept they borrowed from NXT. We saw that between Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle. The fight pit is something that would make sense for Brock, given his past in the UFC. You put him in a cage like that instead of just a traditional steel cage. In a match like that, it usually ends, I think, by knockout or tap out. That can make it a little difficult because how is Cody going to knock out or tap out Brock Lesnar? But I still feel like a fight pit stipulation is something worth considering, but I don't know. They could always put them in Hell in a Cell, right? Since there's no Hell in a Cell pay-per-view anymore. You save Hell in a Cell to blow off a big feud. Well, they've been feuding now for months. And if you're going to blow this off in a third match, Hell in a Cell might make sense. Hell in a Cell might make sense for Cody and Brock. I would imagine next week we'll find out what the stipulation is going to be. By the way, I should mention this. I should mention that they're using Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf from 1968. That song came out. They're using Born to Be Wild as the official theme song for SummerSlam this year. I got no problem with that. It's a great song. great song. So there you go, 1968. We had Gunther against Matt Riddle. This was non-title, but Ludwig Borga and Giovanni Vinci were barred from ringside here per the stipulation they mentioned last week. This was even shorter than I expected this to be. You know, on a 3-hour show, you would think they would give these guys... I mean, and Gunther's pretty high up on the food chain there. You would think they would give these guys at least 10 minutes. This did not even go 10 minutes. It went about 8. Gunther was chopping the soul out of this man. He just, I cannot put into words the impact of some of these chops that he was doling out to Riddle in this match. Then he gave him a high-angle German suplex. He put Riddle down with a hard clothesline for a near fall. Riddle caught Gunther with a pair of ripcord knee strikes and then hit him with a running knee to the back of the head. Riddle went to the ropes. He went for the floating bro. Gunther, though, got his knees up. And after that, Gunther gave him a drop kick, and he power bombed him, and he pinned him. And that was the end of Matt Riddle. Good stuff from these two. Gunther did not need his cronies to pick up the win, so again, they continue to book him as strongly as they could possibly book him. After the match was over, he climbed up on the announce desk with a mic in his hand, and he cut a promo on the fans in Atlanta. He said that it's the greatest night of their sad lives because they got to see the greatest intercontinental champion of all time. He said Matt Riddle is done. He's building a legacy. He said Drew McIntyre, who's not on the show tonight. Drew was off filming a movie. I wasn't sure what the whole writer strike, actor strike, if he was going to be on television tonight because, would he or would he not be filming? Apparently he is still filming. He's filming something over in Europe for that new Batista movie that I talked about on the podcast this week. But he did have a message for Drew. He said Drew McIntyre could ride his coattails, but he will fall victim to the ring general like everyone else. He did not say SummerSlam, but of course we know that's where this will be taking place. And I cannot wait for this. I mean, look, we got a taste of it at WrestleMania this year. We had a triple threat where we got Gunther and Drew in the ring at the same time. That Sheamus was part of the match as well. And it was one of the best matches at WrestleMania this year. That triple threat match on night 2 was one of the best matches of WrestleMania 39. But that was a triple threat. Now it's a singles match. Now we're going to get Gunther and Drew one-on-one for the championship. We know what both of these men are capable of. This is going to be a great match. I'm sure it's going to be a stiff, hard-hitting match. So I cannot wait to see these two get back in the ring at SummerSlam. But I don't think they're going to change the title before he breaks the record. As close as he is to becoming the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. We've gotten this far. It's like getting to the 1-yard line and spiking the ball. I don't think they're going to take the title from him before he breaks the record. But I can't sit here and tell you with 100% certainty they're not going to take the title off of him. It's possible they do. It's possible they do. I'm thinking ahead. You have SummerSlam on August 5th. You have Payback on September 2nd, I believe it is. So whatever that Saturday is. Both of those pay-per-views, the next 2 pay-per-views, are coming before the record is broken. He would have to get, I believe, to September 8th as the date. But I still feel like he's going to hold on to the championship long enough to get there. But I want to make mention of one other thing here. You know, in his promo, he mentioned that he is the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. But we have had some great Intercontinental Champions over the years. I just, not that long ago, somebody asked me about the Mount Rushmore of Intercontinental Champions, and I took some time to think about it, and I said, the guys that I think of when I think of that title, a lot of faces I grew up with when the title meant more than it has really up until now. He's made it mean something for the first time in a long time. Yeah, but I think of guys like Mr. Perfect. I think of guys like Razor Ramon and Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. You can name Chris Jericho, even The Miz for a time, right? Had tried to restore some prestige to that championship. Honky Tonk Man is the longest reigning champion. That doesn't necessarily make you the best champion, just because you are the longest reigning champion. But I heard him, he's calling himself the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. And honestly, I think he's earned the right to be called that. I have no issue sitting here and saying that Gunther may well be the greatest Intercontinental Champion this company has ever had. The run that he has been on, this run of dominance that he has been on, the way he's been booked and protected, the work that he's put in. You can definitely make the case for Gunther being the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. He's not wrong when he says that. Now, Jackie Redmond was backstage to interview the women's tag team champions, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. They spoke about their title match tonight against Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green when Rhea Ripley interrupted. And she told Jackie to leave, and so Jackie got the hell out of there. She glared at Raquel. Liv started to speak when Rhea gave her a big headbutt. And so Raquel and Rhea, they started fighting. Referees and producers, they tried to pull them apart. Rhea then threw a kick to Raquel's left knee that barely kind of grazed the knee. Didn't look like it connected all that much. But she sold it like she was injured. Fell to the ground, was clutching her knee. Liv crawled over to check on her, and she was calling for a doctor. So it didn't look all that devastating, but it did create this new story now going into this women's tag team title match later on in the show, as far as, does this give the challengers a real legitimate opening here to possibly win the tag team titles? Are they doing an injury angle as a way to get the titles off the champions? So it created some doubt that maybe didn't exist before as far as what the outcome was going to be for that women's tag team title match. We would find out a little bit later on. Now, Rhea must have sprinted to the gorilla position because the very next segment, even before they went to commercial, like right after this, was the Judgment Day. Coming out on stage, they were headed to the ring for the next segment, and there she was. Rhea was out there with Balor, Priest, and Dominik. So they come to the ring, and Rhea opens the promo, and she asks if the fans really thought they were going to break up. She labeled herself the most dominant woman in the industry and said that she is unbeatable. Got a big pop for it, too. Everybody seemed to agree. She also spoke about how Dominik is going to become the new NXT North American champion tomorrow night. He's going to be challenging Wesley for the title. So Dominik tried to speak. Of course, he got booed. He said that he would beat Wesley tomorrow, which I would not mind. I said this on the podcast yesterday. I would not mind if they wanted to put the North American title on Dominik. You want to... His first championship, actually, it wouldn't be his first championship. He's been tag team champion already. His first singles championship. As hot of a heel as he has been, and as hot as the Judgment Day is right now, right? Balor is wrestling for the world title again soon. Priest is walking around with the Money in the Bank briefcase. Rhea is the women's world champion. Dominik doesn't have anything. So why not let him walk around for a little bit with the North American title? Wesley has had a great run as the champion in NXT. But I would love it to see Dominik walk around with that belt. Plus, he already lost tonight in the main event. He lost one title match. Is he really going to lose two? Back to back? So Damian Priest spoke up. He said that with his Money in the Bank briefcase, he is guaranteed to be a world champion. Balor looked at him kind of sideways, and Priest reassured him and said, look, you get first crack at Seth Rollins. So then Sami Zayn's music played. He walked out on stage with Kevin Owens. Zayn said that he feels like he has a good relationship with the fans and he knows what they like and what they don't like. He asked them if they paid to listen to Dominik talk. They booed. He asked if they paid to see somebody shut his mouth, and they cheered. And Zayn said the fans are in luck because tonight they're facing Dominik and Damian later on in the night. So Priest said the Judgment Day has been focusing on individual championships, but they also have their eye on those tag team titles. And he said that if Owens and Zayn are so confident, they should put their titles on the line tonight. Now, originally, this was going to be a non-title match. So Priest tried to talk them into making it a championship match. And Zayn said that he thought he should let KO handle the response because he seemed a little agitated after listening to the Judgment Day talk for 5 minutes. So Owens, of course, he did his shtick. He started yelling and freaking out, and he said that he doesn't care if the titles are on the line. So long as he can go in there, he can stun Priest, and he can punch Dominik in his big fat face. He was fine with it. So All of a sudden, the non-title match became a championship match, and that was our main event later on in the show. Backstage, we were in the trainer's room, and there was a trainer checking on Raquel's knee. Adam Pearce was there. Liv Morgan was there. The trainer said that she was cleared. He was going to medically clear her, but he would feel a lot better if she would go get some scans done. And she didn't want to have to go and forfeit the titles due to injury. That already happened once before with them. She doesn't want to go through that again. She says she wanted to wrestle tonight. Adam Pearce looked at the trainer and said, look, so you're clearing her. She could wrestle if she wants to. And he reluctantly said yes. And Pearce said, well, okay. If you want to wrestle, then we'll make it official. The match is still on. And that would turn out to be a very big mistake, because coming up next was the women's tag team title match between Raquel and Liv taking on Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green, who won that terrible gauntlet on the show last week. So the challengers focused in on Raquel's bad wheel. Sonya put her bad leg in a half crab until Liv broke up the hold. Both women tagged out. Liv worked over Chelsea and hit her with a step-up knee in the corner, followed by a code breaker, and then not the best Oblivion that she's ever hit. To be perfectly honest with you, a lot of these Oblivions that she hits do not look good. It's not the best move, especially when sometimes she goes to hit it and the fallback is a little clunky, or it takes a little too long. It just doesn't, kind of looks low impact. I mean, look, there are a few people who can use some new finishers in this company. I'm a huge LA Knight guy. LA Knight's finisher, I think, sucks. He's another one who could stand to find a different finish. So anyway, she hits the Oblivion. Morgan had Green beat. Chelsea, or Sonya rather, ran in and broke up the pin. So Sonya then pulled Raquel off the apron, chop blocked the bad leg out on the floor. Chelsea hit the Unprettier in the ring on Liv Morgan, which, the Unprettier is her finish. Only got a near fall, though. Chelsea hit another Unprettier on Morgan about 30 seconds later, and then Sonya blasted Liv with a running knee strike and pinned her to win the women's tag team titles. After the match, they were posing with their new titles in the aisleway. They were shooting off pyro. Like it was a big pay-per-view match. A shout out to Issa in the chat. NYC Demon Diva hanging out with us here tonight. You'd be very excited. We have new women's tag team champions. I'm sure Issa is very excited. No Roman Reigns, though. I know it's not her favorite show because there's no Roman Reigns tonight. You got to wait until Friday for that. So I said at the beginning, Liv and Raquel, they just won the women's tag team titles at Money in the Bank. 2.5 weeks later, they are no longer the women's tag team champions. This, by the way, is the first title of any kind, anywhere, for Sonya Deville. And it is the first title for Chelsea Green in WWE. Now, we know Raquel is very likely going to be challenging, obviously, going to be challenging Rhea Ripley for the women's championship at SummerSlam. So I prefer this, to be honest with you. I prefer that they get the belts off of them instead of having one half of the tag team champions wrestling for the women's world championship. So I don't have an issue with them getting the belt. I mean, look, I don't have an issue with anything they want to do with the women's tag team titles. It's not like it means anything. So Sonya and Chelsea won the belts. Who are they going to work with now? Who are they going to feud with now? There's no division. So it doesn't matter. But it is better to have the belt off Raquel if she's going to be going after Rhea now. Also note that it was Liv Morgan who took the pin. Liv Morgan took the pin because they're protecting Raquel for her match with Rhea at SummerSlam. Not unlike what AEW did if you think back to Collision on Saturday. We had that tremendous tag team match with FTR and Bullet Club Gold. You'll notice that Juice Robinson took the losing fall both times in that match. 2 out of 3 falls. He lost both falls because they're protecting Jay White. They didn't want him to lose. Same thing here. They didn't want Raquel to be the one to take the pin. Now, Seth Rollins did a sit-down interview in the back with Byron Saxton, or as Chelsea Green calls him, Brian. So he sat down with Brian here for this special interview. Rollins says he's got big plans for the World Heavyweight Championship, and as far as the list of challengers, he said, look, Finn Balor has earned a place on the list, but you also got Damian Priest, you got Drew McIntyre, you've got Gunther in due time. Oh, Gunther will get his shot against Seth Rollins. You just got to wait a little bit longer. All of a sudden, Balor walks in on the interview. And Seth said, it was okay. It's okay, he says. And so Saxton got up and left. Balor sat down in his place. So now he's face to face. They're both sitting. He's face to face with Seth Rollins. He said, you know why I'm here? I want my rematch. I want my rematch. He says, the line starts with me. You know and I know the issues between us are far from over. So do what you got to do. Talk to Pierce and make the match. Rollins told him, look, I understand where you're coming from, but you got to stop living in the past. Balor cut him off and said, look, I'm not living in the past. I'm living in chaos. He says, I'm going to do to you what you did to me. I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to laugh in your face. And I'm going to take your career. And I'm going to alter it forever. Rollins stared him dead in his eye, told him the world title is bigger than you or me. You just want to settle a score, dude, we don't need a match for that. We can do that right here, right now. So take your shot. Or get out of my face. Balor laughed. He said, cool. And then he stood up and seemingly he left. Rollins apologized to the crew. He said, look, are we done here? All of a sudden, he gets hit by a flying chair. By the way, this is one of the banned moves now in AEW. No flying weapons or projectiles in AEW. But he got popped in the face with a flying chair. Of course, Balor comes back into camera frame. He's got Rollins down on the ground. And he tells Seth one final time, make the match. I love the way they were cutting back and forth in this segment with the intense close-up shots of both their faces. I thought that was very well done. You could kind of see a little bit of that here in this image on screen. But I also love the more serious tone that we got from Rollins instead of the usual kind of clown stuff that he does. Instead of the over-the-top delivery in his promos, he took a more serious tone here. And it worked. I thought this worked very well. This was a welcome change. You know, when you have a good sit-down interview like this, it doesn't have to be in the ring. It doesn't have to be in front of the live audience. You have a sit-down interview. The guys go face-to-face, cut back and forth. They're just, cutting a serious promo on each other. It's the simple stuff like that. That's how you sell a pay-per-view match. So I thought this segment was very well done. Then it was time for our weekly Alpha Academy Viking Raiders match. Lost track of how many matches they've had together already, but this time, it was a Viking Rules match. Now, you might be wondering, what is a Viking Rules match? Well, a Viking Rules match means there are no rules. A Viking Rules match is basically a no disqualification match. But they saved their best for last. For however many matches these two teams have had, they have saved their best for last. Issa makes a very good point. This was really the night of the flying chairs. There was a flying chair. That's right, in that opening segment when Brock showed up. Right, we saw a chair go flying. The night of the flying chair here on Raw. Now, we have the Viking Rules match, right? So, of course, who would you expect to be on commentary? Who do you think was on commentary for this match? Titus O'Neil. Because, of course, when there's a Viking Rules match, you've got to have Titus O'Neil on commentary. Why was he on commentary? Fuck if I know. Don't ask me. But there he was. He was sitting out there next to Kevin Patrick and Corey Graves. Corey Graves said Titus could provide some input because he knows all about the Viking Raiders and Viking Rules. And Titus, deadpan, just sat there and corrected him and said, well, I've actually only ever had regular matches against them. That was awkward. That was an awkward moment there. I don't know what the punchline was supposed to be, but he corrected him. He said, as a matter of fact, I don't know what the fuck a Viking Rules match is. I've never had one against them. So again, I don't know why Titus was out there, but I will tell you, he sounded like he was having fun. I thought his enthusiasm here actually made the match even better. So I actually like Titus on commentary here. Now, if you remember the last Viking Rules match, which might have been the only one they ever did, they did at least one before on SmackDown, long time ago. It was between the Viking Raiders and the New Day. And if I remember, I think actually Eric got hurt. I think Eric got injured in that match. But this was very similar in that the front section of the Viking boat, they had this set piece to look like the front part of a Viking ship. It was attached to the ring. It kind of extended out like a platform out from the ring. And then all around the ring, set up against the ring ropes, they had various Viking shields. So that was the motif here for this match. Otis yelled, get the tables at Gable outside the ring at one point, but he got stopped by Eric. Ivar, who was a big man, did tried a springboard crossbody in the ring, but Otis caught him on the way down and hit a power slam. That was pretty cool. That was a cool spot. Ivar hit Otis with a moonsault, but Gable broke up the cover with a moonsault of his own onto Ivar's back. Chad Gable is fucking great, okay? These guys, both guys, Otis also, but Chad Gable is so fucking good. So, again, Ivar hits a moonsault. Gable hits a moonsault of his own onto Ivar's back to break up the pin attempt. Gable immediately follows that with what basically was a delayed German. And maybe it wasn't even meant to be delayed. It just took him a while to get him up because he's such a big guy. But basically did a delayed German to Ivar, who's a lot bigger than he is. So this was a very impressive spot. Eric, though, broke up the cover. And this is where they were cooking with oil here. This is where the crowd was really starting to get loud for this match. So Eric and Gable, they started exchanging strikes until Gable hit an exploder and a diving headbutt, but Valhalla broke up the cover. Maxine Dupree sees this. She climbs up to the top, and she takes out Valhalla with a flying crossbody. So now she's all excited because she just hit her first big crossbody. Gable picks up the jacket that Valhalla stole from Maxine. Remember they did the whole, we gonna steal the jacket storyline, right? Like straight out of 1995. Gable picks up the jacket and he gives it back to Maxine, who puts the jacket on and she's yelling, thank you, right? Like Gable does. But as she's yelling thank you and she's all excited to have her jacket back on, here comes Valhalla, and Valhalla spears her through a table that was set up in the corner. So they had Maxine take a table bump here in this match. So the Vikings then drove Gable into some shields that were wedged in the corner, in between the ropes. He fell out of the ring. Otis gets up, and they kind of zoom in on Otis. And Otis does not look very happy. Angry Otis is scary. He's an angry man. So he runs over both Viking Raiders. He slams Ivar. He gives Eric a fall-away slam. Otis hits Ivar with a caterpillar, but Valhalla slapped him in the face when he went to go climb the ropes. And the Vikings... So he's still on the middle rope, right? He gets smacked, but he didn't fall backwards. He's standing with his back to the Vikings. He's on the middle rope to make it easier for them to pick him up for their finish. So they go on each side of Otis. They pick him up for their Ragnarok double power bomb. They slam Otis down, and they pin him to win the Viking Rules match. And, you know, I have seen enough of these two teams against each other to last me a lifetime. But this ended up being a hell of a lot more fun than I was expecting going in. This ended up being a very enjoyable match. There were some impressive spots, especially from Chad Gable and Otis as well. And I was not expecting Maxine to take a table, but it was safe. I mean, it wasn't like a high-impact bump or she got dumped to the floor or anything like that. But I was not expecting her to take a table bump in this match. We've seen these two teams so many times before. I knew we had the stipulation going in, but I wasn't expecting it to be radically different from what we've gotten before. But it worked here. This was the most fun I have had watching any of the matches between these two teams. This should be the blow-off, even though the baby faces lost. this should be the end of this. I don't know if it will be, but it should be. Because I don't see them topping this match. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to have them wrestle again in a regular match after doing the stipulation match? I mean, you could do a singles match between Valhalla and Maxine. I don't know how good it's going to be. But as far as the Vikings and Alpha Academy, I think that this needs to be it. So we had Shayna Baszler, who was scheduled to go one-on-one with Nikki Cross. And Nikki Cross comes to the ring. The bell rings. This went 20 seconds. I counted. Maybe 19 seconds. But it went 20 seconds before Shayna put her down with the Kirifuda clutch. So thank you for showing up for work, Nikki. Enjoy your flight home on United Airlines. So now, all of a sudden, we hear the voice of Ronda Rousey. We don't know where she is, but we hear her voice. We hear Ronda Rousey saying, "And the crowd goes mild." She must have been watching one of her own matches. But no, she was in the upper deck all by herself with a microphone in hand. She said that she could have taken the long way through the door in WWE like everybody else does. Or could have gone through the back door by earning an Olympic medal in judo and having an earth-shattering UFC career. She got thrown into the wolves by being put into a WWE ring with no training and developed a Hall of Fame career in just a year. You know that when Ronda's done, she'll be a first ballot Hall of Fame. And Shayna will probably be the one inducting her into the Hall of Fame. She says she did everything in a fraction of the time that it took Shayna to do, and she still eclipsed her. Rousey called herself the greatest combat sports athlete of all time and said that Shayna was just a knockoff version of her. So Baszler, who had a mic in the ring, looked up at the upper deck and said that she was a better Ronda Rousey in the ring than the real Ronda. And she challenged her to a fight. Rousey said no. Baszler then said, well, fuck this. I'm going to go into the crowd. She went into the crowd. She made it maybe halfway up the staircase. She got stopped by security. Ronda then said she's going to do Shayna a favor. She's going to finally get her booked on SummerSlam. And she said, I'll see you in Motor City, bitch. And then she left. So we had Brock Lesnar in the opening segment accept the challenge of Cody Rhodes and say, I'll see you at SummerSlam, bitch. And then here we had Ronda Rousey throw out a SummerSlam challenge and tell Shayna Baszler, I'll see you at SummerSlam, bitch. I tell you, when they throw that B word in there, that's how you know they mean business, right? You throw that word in there, I guess it just changes the whole attitude about it, the whole thing. So at least we know who the babyface is. Basically, it is whoever is not named Ronda Rousey. In this case, this particular match, it's going to be Shayna Baszler as the babyface. But really, you can plug anybody in there. And they're going to be the babyface against Ronda Rousey. So again, the SummerSlam card is coming together. We already kind of knew what the matches were going to be. We already knew Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, right? That's not even official yet, but that's going to be the main event. I imagine it will be official as of Friday. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar. Those are your two main events for SummerSlam. Well, I mean, the main event is Roman and Jey. Cody and Brock is basically going to be the Raw main event. Even though Seth Rollins is defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Finn Balor, Cody and Brock is kind of the feature match, I would say, for Raw. We have those three matches. Gunther and Drew McIntyre is going to be added. Raquel and Rhea is going to be added. Asuka, Charlotte, and Bianca, triple threat, most likely, going to be added. Is the U.S. title going to be defended at SummerSlam? It's not looking good. Probably on television. I hope they find a spot for it at SummerSlam. If they find a spot for the Intercontinental, they should find one for the U.S. Ronda and Shayna, now official. Owens and Zayn, they should have a spot on the show, although I'm not sure exactly what that will be. And that's pretty much, I would say, the SummerSlam card. They're probably not going to go beyond that. Jackie Redmond was backstage. Oh, well, actually, I left one out. As a matter of fact, I left one out. Ricochet. He was backstage with Jackie Redmond being interviewed. Ricochet said Logan Paul thinks he's a joke. But Logan Paul lives in the social media world. In the world of WWE, he says Logan is a joke. And he said that Logan wanted a fight, but when they got into it last week, Logan Paul was the one who was laid out. He challenged Logan to show up on Raw next week in Tampa, where he could hurt him where it hurts, his ego. We got a Miz TV segment with Becky Lynch, who Miz said that she's been on a downward spiral of late. She's lost a whole bunch of her matches. And she looked like she's been in a downward spiral too. She was out there in her pajamas. So yeah, Becky's been in a bad way lately. Miz noted that her recent losses were to Trish Stratus and Zoe Stark. Miz wondered if she had lost a step. Lynch stood up and took both chairs, because Miz always has the chairs in the ring. She threw the chairs outside. She got up in Miz's face. Miz was cowering. He was in the ropes trying to hide from her. She got up in his face and said, look, she may have lost titles and friends and maybe even her mind over the past year, but she has not lost a step. She knew how this stupid show worked. She wasn't going to be the only guest. So she told Miz, go ahead and get Trish Stratus out here before she took his tiny testicles. Still going with this tiny balls thing. Trish comes out with Zoe Stark. Trish is still wearing her protective face mask. Becky, though, was talking over their music as they came to the ring. She was demanding a rematch. Trish said that Becky was acting like a bratty child and wondered if it was actually Rue in the ring. Rue, of course, is Seth and Becky's daughter. Becky told Trish to keep her daughter's name out of her mouth. Trish said that she already beat her once before. She declined a rematch. She says, I'm moving on. She's like the Jeffersons. She's moving on up. She's done with Becky Lynch. Trish said that Miz TV actually was the perfect place for Becky to go ahead and say thank you, Trish. Becky said Trish wanted to return to WWE, so she brought her back. But then Trish attacked her when she was at her lowest, because she knew that she couldn't take her when she was at her strongest. Becky challenged her to a rematch without Zoe Stark by her side. Trish suddenly had a change of heart. Didn't take much for her to change her mind. She accepted a rematch with Becky Lynch, but she accepted a rematch with Becky Lynch under a couple of conditions. First, Becky would have to beat Zoe Stark. And Becky said, done. Trish then mocked her for thinking that she could beat the fastest rising star in WWE. She then said that when Zoe beats her, Becky would have to get on her knees and say, thank you, Trish. Becky said, done. Trish also wanted Becky to tattoo the phrase, thank you, Trish, across her chest. And Becky said, done. Now, it was a little unclear here whether or not that means she has to tattoo it if she loses to Zoe, or she has to tattoo it if she loses to Trish. She wasn't entirely clear about that. So the heels then all of a sudden, they very abruptly attacked Becky 2-on-1. She fought them off, though. She ripped off Trish's face mask, and Trish begged off. Becky hit her in the nose, put the face mask on herself, and she headbutted Zoe Stark with it. This was not a great segment, but it served a purpose, which was to set up, even though it's not official yet, to set up Becky and Trish at SummerSlam, and before that, actually next week on the show, to set up Becky and Zoe Stark one-on-one. But again, I think they could have been a little more clear on the tattoo thing. Not that it matters, because we all know Becky's winning, so it don't matter. It don't matter. She's winning both of her matches. We already know that. I just didn't think this was a great segment, though. This is one of the weaker segments on the show. With Shinsuke Nakamura, one-on-one with Bronson Reed, but not only Bronson Reed. It was Shinsuke Nakamura one-on-one with Big Bronson Reed. That's his new nickname. I know this because they mentioned it, and it was in the graphic on the screen. They really drove home the point. He's no longer Bronson Reed. He is Big Bronson Reed. Yes, he is big. I have 2 eyeballs. I can fucking see that the guy is big. But now they're telling us that he's big. So, by the way, This whole nickname nonsense, because everybody in this fucking company has to have a nickname. This has Vince McMahon's fingerprints all over. You know full fucking well where this big Bronson Reed stuff, because like Keith Bearcat Lee, you know where the big Bronson Reed name comes from. Not that it's a big deal. See, I just used it there. But this just, everybody has to have a nickname kind of stuff. You know exactly where this is coming from. So Reed hit a Death Valley driver for 2. Nakamura made a comeback. He set up for the Kinshasa. Reed, though, flattened him with a crossbody block. When Tommaso Ciampa all of a sudden hit the ring and he attacked Reed after Reed, of course, cost Ciampa the win against Miz in their no DQ match on Raw. So this was payback, but that gave Bronson Reed the win via disqualification. So Shinsuke Nakamura loses because of Tommaso Ciampa. Somebody in the chat says, why not Bearcat Bronson Reed? It may end up being that way. Give it time. Give it time. If he believes in that name strongly enough and still wants to use it and they still have the trademark, he may end up being Bearcat Bronson. They can't call him Bear Bronson because we already have Bear Bronson in AEW. That name is taken. So maybe Bearcat's a little too close. Tony Khan may not like that. So they're going with Big Bronson Reed. So Ciampa, after the match, he seemed to be apologetic to Nakamura for what happened. Nakamura obviously was not happy, so much so that he dropped Ciampa with a kick to the face, and he got cheered for it. There were mostly cheers from the crowd. Why were there cheers from the crowd? Because, first of all, people like Nakamura. He's well established on the main roster in a way that Tommaso Ciampa is not. They know Nakamura. They like Nakamura. They're still getting used to Tommaso Ciampa. He just came back not that long ago. He missed 9 months. Even before the 9 months, he wasn't on the main roster for very long. So that's number one. Number two, he completely fucked over Nakamura in this match. The fans were on his side because he was right. He was justified in what he did. So he put down Ciampa and he got cheered for it. Now, after a break, we're in the back. Byron Saxton goes over, tries to interview Shinsuke Nakamura. And Nakamura, very low voice, says to him, I'm tired of everybody getting involved in my business. And Byron asked him about attacking Ciampa when the match was over. Now he got a lot more animated. He raised his voice by a few octaves. And Nakamura snapped back at Byron and said, Byron, I said I'm tired of everybody getting involved in my business. Put a little bit of extra bass in his voice before he walked off. Nakamura is tired of people's shit. Now here's what I'm wondering. The issue coming out of what happened in the no DQ match when Reed all of a sudden is helping Miz again. He hasn't helped Miz in 6 months. It seemed like they were setting up for a tag team match where it would be Miz and Bronson Reed if they end up in a match at SummerSlam. And now it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Triple H likes to keep these pay-per-view cards relatively tight, unless it's WrestleMania, and even WrestleMania is spread out over 2 nights. These pay-per-views, he's not overloading these pay-per-views with matches. And I've said, when he was doing the initial NXT TakeOver shows, he liked to keep them to 5, sometimes 6 matches. On the main roster, it seems like he follows a similar philosophy where it'll be more than 5, but he doesn't want to overload the shows with too many matches. Now, SummerSlam is a big show in a big stadium. Maybe he'll want to have more than usual. I think SummerSlam, when all is said and done, will probably end up with like 8 matches. I doubt anything involving these men is going to make the cut unless it's on the pre-show. But it seemed to me like the match they were building to was Miz and Bronson Reed against Tommaso Ciampa and a partner, most likely the returning Johnny Gargano, who is cleared, by the way. Johnny Gargano's been dealing with an injury. He has recovered from that injury. He could be back any week now. I would like to see a DIY reunion on the main roster, though. I think we'll get it. I don't know if it'll be on the SummerSlam card, but I do feel like that's the match they seemed to be building to. Now I'm a little confused because what we had here, I'm not sure how Nakamura fits into this, if he does at all. Is Nakamura going to feud now with Tommaso Ciampa? Are they going to wrestle? Are they going to have a match? Or was this done not so much to start a feud with Nakamura and Ciampa, but just to, plant the seed for what may possibly be a heel turn for Shinsuke Nakamura? This was just kind of meant to further that, but he's not necessarily going to be feuding with Ciampa. I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. But I am still pulling for a tag team match. Main event on this show was a tag team match. It was for the tag team titles. It was Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn defending their undisputed tag team championship against the Judgment Day, Dominik and Damian Priest. So after Samantha Irvin does the introductions for the match, Seth Rollins runs out through the crowd into the ring, and then from the ring through the ropes with a suicide dive out onto Finn Balor. And he fought Finn all the way to the back. That was the last we saw of Rollins and Balor for the rest of the show. So the crowd was cheering on Sami Zayn after the final commercial break. We come back. They're cheering for Sami. He's trying to get that tag to Kevin Owens. And eventually he gets the hot tag. And I can't even call it a hot tag. It was a very hot tag. Like I said, this crowd was hot all night. This crowd was hot for this main event. He gets the hot tag to Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens comes in the ring. He knocks down Dominik and Priest, knocks him out of the ring. Owens clotheslines both men outside the ring, and he gives Damian Priest a running senton. He then goes up onto the apron, hits a frog splash onto Dominik on the floor. Owens hit Priest with a cannonball, but Priest got his knees up on the top rope senton bomb in the ring when Owens came off the top. Priest got the knees up. Dominik followed with a frog splash. Zayn, though, broke up the cover. Owens hit Dominik with a pop-up powerbomb, but Priest broke up the pin at the last possible second. Zayn tagged in, hit Priest with a tornado DDT. Zayn went to the top, but Priest cut him off and hit a Hurricane Rana. Dominik made a blind tag, drop-kicked Zayn into the middle rope in the position for the 619. Zayn avoided the 619 attempt. Owens wiped out Priest with a dive off the apron. And Zayn wiped out Dominik on the floor with a flip dive out over the top rope. Crowd was smoking hot for all of this. Outside the ring, Rhea Ripley drove Kevin Owens into the ring steps. Sami Zayn pointing it out to the referee. Damian Priest attacked Sami with the referee's back turned, and Dominik rolled him up with a schoolboy for a near fall. Ripley then is yelling at the referee. We hear the crowd is starting to get even louder. We see Liv Morgan runs out. This is after they lost their tag team titles earlier in the show, after she was headbutted by Rhea Ripley backstage earlier in the night. Here comes Liv Morgan, and she attacks Rhea. They end up tumbling over the timekeeper's barricade. It's just all chaos right now during this match. So both women tumble over the barricade. In the ring, Owens drops Priest with a stunner. Zayn hits Dominik with a haluva kick, and he pins him to retain the tag team titles. A hot main event, a fun main event. It was a hell of a way to close out the show. I had a lot of fun with this match. This should have been the match for SummerSlam. The tag team title match at SummerSlam should have been Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn defending against Damian Priest and Dominik Mysterio to give Priest and Dominik something to do. Priest may end up cashing in or teasing a cash in the World Heavyweight title match. But I thought this would be the match for KO and Sami at the pay-per-view. Instead, they gave it to us here on the show tonight. Not only did they give it to us, they gave us a clean winner. Right? Owens and Zayn, they win the match. There was no disqualification. There was no count out. There was no draw. There was no bullshit finish. So they basically just blew it off here tonight. Now, the question is, I can't imagine they leave off Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn from the SummerSlam card. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, they headlined WrestleMania this year. They are the undisputed tag team champions. How are you going to leave them off the SummerSlam card? So they're going to defend their titles. It's just a matter of against who. They could run this match back. I'm not really sure what the point of it would be, given that we got a finish tonight. But I would have said the same thing about Money in the Bank after Seth beat Balor. And they're doing that match over again also at SummerSlam. So who's to say they don't run this back a second time at SummerSlam? I don't know who else it would be against if not the Judgment Day. My next choice or my next guess would be Imperium, but they have done nothing to heat up Kaiser and Vinci for that spot. They still have a few weeks left, but those guys have not been heated up, enough, I think, to challenge for the tag team titles on that pay-per-view. Maybe it's a multi-man match, a multi-team match. We'll have to see. But overall, I thought this was the best episode of Raw that I have seen in months. This was a way more enjoyable show than they have been. We had some fun matches, including a very hot crowd, which always helps. Very little, if any, real filler on this show. Certainly less filler than we normally would be subjected to on this show. And they move things along for SummerSlam. So you can't really ask for more than that. So Raw gets a thumbs up from me this week. I know. Am I feeling like myself? Do I have a temperature? No, I feel okay. I feel fine. Let's take a look at the poll. Poll seems to reflect it. 77% of you have given Raw a thumbs up tonight. 23% thumbs down. So I see I am not alone. I am not alone. It was not perfect, and there are still questions as far as this SummerSlam card goes, but like I said, I had a lot of fun. More than usual watching this show tonight. And with Raw, that's all you can ask for. If they can keep my attention, and you give me a few matches that are really fun, and you just kind of move things along, and things make sense for the most part, and you can do all that, you put all that together, you have a very good show. Should the show be 3 hours? No, it shouldn't be. But there's no point in beating that dead horse. That horse is not only dead, it's been decomposing for a decade now. There's not much of a point left in beating it up. Fire Panda, let's get to your super chats here. Fire Panda was the first one to kick us off. By the way, we're only about 30 likes away from Be the Booker. So if you want Be the Booker tonight, 30 more likes, hit that thumbs up. Fire Panda dropped a $53 super chat earlier. And then another $21 says, Quizzical One is my favorite furry. Shout out to Quiz in the chat. And Uffman holding down the fort. Groovy Goose. What were your initial reactions to when Randy Orton first transitioned into the Viper gimmick? Did you think it would carry like it has? Did I think it would carry? I mean, I didn't necessarily know he would have the longevity that he had, but yeah, I mean, it's been his gimmick now for so long. With the Viper logo and everything. I mean, you can never predict what's going to stick and what's not. Did I know it when he first started doing it? No. But he grew into it and it worked. It's who he is. Brandon with the $4.99. Thank you very much, sir. DEH Sires, outside of international crowds, tonight was the best. We got some hot crowds from AEW in Canada, and again, I think tonight they had over 10,000 in the building. They had a lot less than 10,000 in those buildings that AEW ran, but you wouldn't know it. When they were in Calgary, and I think even the week before. Where were they the week before? Saskatoon, maybe it was. They had some hot crowds in Canada in some very small buildings. So yeah, hot crowd, man, can enhance a show. It can make a good show great. It can make a bad show good. It's the power of a hot crowd. Chris AXC. Instead of playing hot potato with the tag belts, couldn't they have just had Dawn and Fire win the unification match and build them up? They are MIA since then. Sure. Yes, they could have. But if you thought they were going to, then you were fooling yourself. Samoan Fan 101, my mom watched Halloween Ends today and did not like it. I think she's in agreement with a lot of people who saw Halloween Ends. In fact, I think my Halloween Ends review is on the channel if you want to go back and see my thoughts on Halloween. Wow, that's quite the name there. We got Vince writing in with a super chat. Buzzer or bell? Great Khali against Omos against Giant Gonzalez. Also, Alien or The Thing? Well, I can answer that. The Thing. There you go. Buzzer or bell for Khali, Omos, and Giant Gonzalez. You know, in kind of a morbid way, I almost want to give it the bell. It could truly, I almost feel like the entire wrestling world would kind of fall into this vortex. It would be sucked down into like this black hole, never to be seen again. I think I would have to give that the bell. It's just so uniquely horrible that I kind of want to see it. By the way, for those of you wondering, where was Green Man? Where was the little green guy at the beginning of the stream tonight? He fell into the hole. He struggled all week. He did everything he possibly could, but unfortunately he got sucked into the hole. So now I gotta go dig him out. I gotta lower something to pull him out. It's gonna take a while, so we'll see. Hopefully we'll be back. Hopefully we'll be back with Green Guy next week. Real CSO2, thank you for the super chat. I'm not talking about other podcasters here on the show. This is not the forum for that, but thank you for the super chat. Naughty Delicious Chicken with Flavor with a $5 super chat. It is time for Cody Rhodes to fight fire with fire. Next week, if I was Cody, I would get a cinder block and smash Lesnar's left hand. You would think. Tit for tat, right? Eye for an eye. Samoan fan, have you seen Meltzer in the 90s on Twitter? Here's a quote from February of 1998. I believe the new Midnight Express tag team will be Bob Holly and Bart Gunn, although it may be Adam Copeland and Sean Morley. Yeah, I think that was discussed, actually. Look, things get discussed. Sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't. There was something that Meltzer had in the newsletter back in 1992 about Shawn Michaels and Ted DiBiase being put together as a tag team. Instead, it ended up being DiBiase and IRS. Now, the connection between DiBiase and Shawn Michaels, you think, boy, what a random team that would have been. But Sherry, Sensational Sherry, would have been the common link. Sherry managed DiBiase for a while. Then she went on to manage Shawn Michaels at the beginning of that year. So she probably would have managed both of them as a tag team. DiBiase has said he never heard anything about that, but just because he didn't hear anything about it doesn't mean it wasn't an idea being discussed internally. And instead they put DiBiase and IRS together. So it's one, chalk that up to just, one of those what ifs. What if they would have been put together as a tag team? Looking at Sean Morley these days, I think Adam Copeland made out pretty well. 0.216 dropping a $25 super chat. By the way, wasn't Edge married to Val's sister? I think there was a connection between them. I think Edge for a time was married. I think Val's sister's name is Alana or something. And I think Edge was married to Val Venus's sister. 0 point. Never thought I would bring up Alpha Academy, but here we are. Chase University did the gimmick better. But my question is, who deserves more credit for being mega over? Sami Zayn with his bloodline work or LA Knight with no storyline? I mean, Sami Zayn was already over. Sami Zayn was already a made guy. LA Knight has never been established on the main roster, so it's I can't really compare the two. Who deserves more credit? I mean, Sami Zayn did incredible work in that storyline. LA Knight hasn't done incredible work. It's just that his personality and his charisma are catching on. We still haven't even scratched the surface, I think, of what he could possibly do on the main roster. So I don't really feel comfortable saying that one person deserves more credit than the other. I mean, the body of work that Sami put together last year, though, was a work of art. We got Zachariah with that $50 drop from earlier. Zachariah, thank you, man. Is SummerSlam really 2 weeks away? Anyway, do you think the stipulation for Brock and Cody changes? I'm hoping it will be a dog collar match, but WWE may not go that route. Triple H, but not Vince, but one. I don't know what that. There was like a botch. There was a botch there in the super chat. You know, I don't know, man. The AEW seems to have the market on dog collar matches. A dog collar match without blood, I don't think it works. I don't think it works. So, you're not going to get blood. So why bother doing it? You can say the same thing about Hell in a Cell, but at this point, we've seen plenty of Hell in a Cell matches without blood. But I mean, when I say blood, I don't just mean like, oh, you know, Brock could bleed. I mean blood, right? So I wouldn't even bother doing a dog collar match. I think you could do a bull rope. If you're going to do a dog collar match, just make it a bull rope match to play off, you know, Dusty. Get Cody in the ring tonight talking about hard times. He's going to serve hard times. They'll probably go with something like a bull rope match. But if not, I think something like a cage, a fight pit, a Hell in a Cell, that would make sense to blow off the story and give Cody that big win in the third match. Dethronic78, can someone tell me, how does Nakamura have a song called Nakamura from a major rapper from Philly? If WrestleMania is in Philly, shouldn't they be pushing it? I don't think that was anything done in concert with WWE. So, I mean, if it was a song that WWE commissioned for him, then they'd probably have him performing it live. But I think that was just a song somebody did because, you know, they liked the beat of the Nakamura song, and maybe it was like a tribute to him. Naughty Delicious Chicken with Flavor. Why didn't Kevin Owens punch a hole through Dominik Mysterio's head? I wanted to see pieces of Dominik's brain on the floor. You can't do that. He has a match with Wesley tomorrow. We have to at least get that match first. By the way, you know, we're talking about theme songs. It came up randomly on my Spotify playlist the other day at the gym. My Time. Triple H's song. And I have come to the realization, I think I always probably felt this way, but it really hit me. I haven't heard that song in a while. Of all the songs that Triple H has had, still to this day, the best of all the Triple H theme songs is My Time. I stand by that. It's a great fucking song. Arabian Night 2000 with SummerSlam probably, he says, having 4 women's matches. Does Triple H make the card 9 to 10 matches? If not, do you think both the tag and US titles will be defended that week on TV? Theory against Knight could main event SmackDown. If they're going to leave the US title off, if it is going to be LA Knight, if they know what's good for them, it'll be LA Knight and Austin Theory. I would hate for it to be left off the SummerSlam card, but if it was, then yes, it should main event SmackDown. It should absolutely main event SmackDown. I don't know what Triple H is going to end up doing as far as the number of matches on the card. You know, maybe he'll add a few more than he normally does. You say 4 women's matches. I guess it is 4 women's matches there, right? We'll have the Raw Women's title, the SmackDown Women's title, Becky and Trish. What's the other one? You're talking about the women's tag team titles? Because I don't think those were being defended. So what's the 4th women's match? What am I missing? Naughty Delicious says, Thea Hale and Kevin Owens got to lay off the energy drinks and try some Magic Spoon as an alternative. Nah, they can cut the Magic Spoon out. We're not working with Magic Spoon anymore, so. Fuck that. You know what they should be doing? They could use some better help. Calm themselves down. That's what they could be doing. I got a code for that. DEH Sires, no wonder business in WWE is booming when you got 4 ultra baby faces. Cody, Seth, KO, and Sami in WWE. Can you even remember the top baby faces in 2021? Oh, Ronda and Shayna. Thank you. Okay, I was wondering what's the 4th women's match I was forgetting. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. So yeah, there you go. You got 4 women's matches on the SummerSlam card this year, and it doesn't even include the women's tag team titles. There you go. Naughty Delicious. Chicken with flavor. I've been listening to your reviews on LA Knight. I agree with everything. WWE should book LA Knight against Logan Paul at WrestleMania 4. Well, look, I mean, on the WrestleMania card, it would be a high-profile match for him. I can't really shit on that idea. Logan Paul's had some great matches. And if it was good enough for Seth Rollins this year, then it would be good enough for LA Knight. I'm not sure, though, if LA Knight would be... I mean, verbally, the promos, I think, would be fire. I don't know about the match. I don't know. Logan Paul and Seth Rollins just have a certain style that complements each other. Logan Paul and Ricochet at SummerSlam, they have styles that complement each other. Logan Paul and LA Knight, match-wise, I don't know. But it would be a good spot for him on the show if he's not, wrestling for a title. Like I said, if it was good enough for Seth, and it's good enough for LA Knight. Rizzo says, how much is WWE paying you to carry their water? Not nearly enough. Not nearly enough. We got Naughty Delicious as a shout out to Lil Uzi Vert. The song Nakamura on his Pink Tape album is my second favorite track. I like Lil Uzi Vert. Boney says favorite so bad it's good match. Favorite so bad it's good match. Oh man, I don't know. There have been so many horrible matches I've seen over the years. There was a match I saw on YouTube from Puerto Rico between Abdullah the Butcher and Zeus. If you can believe that. That was pretty fucking bad. I don't know if that was so bad it's good, though. I think that was just bad. I think so. Yeah, if you've never seen it, just search it out. Zeus and Abdullah the Butcher. There you go. When you're making your match of the year lists, you're looking for some inspiration from the past, go check that match out. Brandon Vasquez with the $5 super chat. Brandon, thank you. Brandon says, if the pandemic never happened and Roman did not have time off, do you think we still would have gotten the tribal chief and the bloodline story? That's a great question. I do think at some point we would have gotten it, but how much longer would it have taken to get there? Because I think Roman was just done. He was burned out, all the babyface bullshit. He knew it wasn't working. You're kind of swimming against the current, and he knew that. And I think it just would have happened anyway at some point, but I don't know when. It's one of those what ifs we can't answer. I don't know when they would have eventually done. I'm glad it worked out the way it did, but I don't know. Mike says, so bad it's good. Blindfold match. Jake Roberts against Rick Martel. See, I don't consider that so bad it's good. I like that match. I guess it would be a guilty pleasure. I didn't consider it bad, though. I actually liked the match, and I thought the psychology of it worked, and I thought it's still the best blindfold match I've ever seen. Angel Silva. My friend Noah Flippin Vaca thinks the NWO is overrated in that they did nothing. Is he right? Is he right that the NWO did nothing? No. Your friend is wrong. Tell your friend he forgot his brain in the locker. He did it again. He forgot his key code. Take the brain out, put it back in the head. No, your friend is wrong. Also, is the Shield a top 5 WWE faction of all time? I believe it is. I believe it is, yes. The Mount Vernon Kid, Christopher Bennett. Can we get a Mantar Bellow in honor of Mant? I gave you one on the podcast on Sunday. And we got a Mantar Super Chats. Yes, we did lose Mantar this past week. I did a whole segment on Mantar if you missed it yesterday on the show. In his honor, I did a Mantar Bellow. Burn! is a little Mantar Bella right there. Right, not the full one. I'll give you a little one. I'll give you a little bellow in honor of Mantar. If you want the full one, you got to listen to the podcast. Naughty delicious chicken with flavor. If Brock Lesnar wants to be petty as hell, Lesnar steals Pharaoh the dog backstage. Now, I think we need to leave Pharaoh out of these wrestling shows. Poor Pharaoh has already been traumatized enough. I don't think we need to... I mean, didn't that dog suffer enough with the pyro mishap? Now you want Brock Lesnar to put his hands on him? Come on. Puts him in a little doggy Kimura. Luis, you say My Time is the best Triple H theme of all time. Add King of Kings and Time to Play the Game. Love all of Triple H's themes. Add respect. You're just naming all of his themes. I didn't say that the other themes were bad. I said My Time is the best of the bunch. I'm not going to add the other two. That defeats the purpose of saying that the other one is the best. They're all very good, but My Time is the best. Dr. Scorpio. All the terrible gimmicks that we have seen in wrestling as long as we have been watching, there's always a handful that we remember that live on forever. Right. Just talked about one just now. And Arabian Night. Do you see Edge wrestling at SummerSlam? My point earlier about 4 women's matches filling maybe half the card. I cannot see anywhere for him on the card, sadly. They've set nothing up for him, so no. I don't see Edge on the SummerSlam card this year. There's going to be a lot of people missing, I think, from SummerSlam this year. It's going to, AJ Styles, Bobby Lashley, Edge. None of them have any obvious matches. Now, AJ is feuding with Karrion Kross, but that ain't going to be on the fucking SummerSlam card. If they're going to put AJ Styles and Karrion Kross on the SummerSlam card, then you can have Austin Theory defending his United States Championship against LA Knight. I don't see that being on the card. No, it looks like Edge is probably not going to be on the show. I don't even... Who to be against? I thought Grayson Waller. I thought that was the match they were setting up, and then they just went and did the match on TV. It's like, okay. All right. No need to do it at SummerSlam, I guess. So the goal tonight was 400 likes for Be the Booker. And we are currently pushing 440. So I thank you for that very much. And without any further ado, let us go ahead and kick off the week by being the Booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the Booker.
Eric says Styles and Cross is going to main event SummerSlam. Sure. If SummerSlam was 7 days out of the week, it would never main event SummerSlam. But thankfully, Eric is not booking SummerSlam. But I am booking right now. So let's see what we come up with here. Let's book some matches. Last I heard, I think they had about 43,000 tickets out for SummerSlam. All right, let's kick things off with Kurt Angle. The Olympic gold medal winning Kurt Angle, former WWE champion, WCW champion, Intercontinental champion, hardcore champion, European champion. I think he was United States champion. If not, then how the hell was Kurt Angle never a U.S. champion? He had to be a U.S. champion at some point. How are you going to have a U.S. title and not have Kurt Angle win it at least once? Kurt did it all, man. Kurt's one of the GOATs. Hard to imagine me landing on someone else against Kurt Angle and giving this the buzzer. Kurt Angle one-on-one with Jake the Snake Roberts. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Definite bell. Jake is not the athlete that Kurt is, but Kurt is not the promo that Jake is. And Kurt's pretty good with his promos, too. Very, very humorous, but they bring different qualities to the table. I think they'd end up having a pretty damn good match myself. Jake the Snake in his prime against Kurt Angle in his prime. How's that for a match? Interesting contrast in styles. All right, let's book a women's match here on the card. We begin with Sable, the former WWF Women's Champion, whose name is not allowed to be mentioned on television. We learned that from Tori Wilson. Tori Wilson went into the Hall of Fame, said she wanted to mention Sable in her Hall of Fame speech, and was specifically told, do not mention Sable. Probably because they don't want somebody to say the wrong thing. And then you get on the bad side of Brock Lesnar. You don't want to be on the bad side of Brock Lesnar. So better to leave her name out of your mouth. Sable, one-on-one with Tegan Knox. Well, Sable at one time was one of the biggest stars in the business, believe it or not. She was a needle mover in that company. She made them a lot of money. Champion. Playboy cover girl. As a wrestler? I don't think so. Her big claim to fame in the ring was powerbombing Mark Marrow at WrestleMania. But you know who gets a lot of credit for that match? Who should get a lot of credit for that match? Luna Vachon. Yeah, it still makes me sad, that whole story. And I talked about it with the Luna Dark Side of the Ring episode. I guess it was last season. And backstage that night, crying, because everybody was going up to Sable and congratulating her. Oh, what a great match. Everybody was just walking right past Luna. You know, the only person who went over to tell Luna to kind of console her and tell her what a great job she did, the one person who did that night? Owen Hart. Unbelievable. All right, let's book a tag team match here and close this out. Look at this. After their Viking Rules win tonight, we have War Machine. I'm calling them by their real name. War Machine. Not the Viking Raiders or the War Raiders or the Viking Experience. These guys right here, former IWGP Tag Team Champions, Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. These are the guys I want to see. War Machine going to take on Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano of DIY. That image right there. That image right there is what I was talking about earlier in the stream. This is what we need to see one day on the main roster. Only instead of those NXT Tag Team titles, it'll be the Undisputed Tag Team titles. How would you like to see Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa 2 out of 3 falls on television against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn like we had the other night with FTR and Bullet Club Gold? That's the match I want to see. There you go. Good night for Be the Booker. 2 for 3 is a good night. That is an awesome match. That's a must-see match. That is a must-see match is what that is. We got a bunch of super chats here. So, let's make sure we get to all of your messages. Dr. Scorpio. Of all the terrible... I already talked about that. And Arabian Night. Rock versus Sting. There we go. That's what I meant. The Rock versus Sting. Says, funny Raw review. Thank you. Not sure if it's brought up, but is there any chance that Jimmy turns on Jay at SummerSlam as a twist in the Bloodline storyline? I mean, that wouldn't make any sense. The guy has been put on the shelf by Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. So why now, of all times, would he turn against his brother? It just doesn't make any sense. Arabian Knight says, do you see Matt Riddle as a world champion in 2024? I don't. Dr. Scorpio, Kurt trying to do comedy segments with Jake. It could be an interesting odd couple kind of pairing. It kind of reminds me of Kurt and Austin in 01. Could Kurt and Jake have had that kind of dynamic? I think it could have worked. I don't know if it's something Jake would have wanted to do. I think it could have worked, though. Cameron Spencer with the $4.99. I don't like Corbin, but would turning him face, pairing him with Von Wagner, and having him dethrone Roman and get him over. Are you down for that? Wait. Let me reread that. I want to make sure I read this correctly. I don't like Corbin, but would turning him face, pairing him with Wagner, and having him dethrone Roman, get him over. Are you down for that? No. Dethrone Roman. Baron Corbin. Are we talking about Baron Corbin? Are you talking about Corbin Burnson? Maybe you're talking about a different Corbin. Jeremy Corbyn, the guy from the UK? I mean, what? No. Absolutely not. You out of your mind? Come on, Cameron. What's the matter with you? I had to read that twice just to make sure I was reading it correctly. Wow. Yeah, there's a reason why. Let me bring him up here. This is the man you're talking about. Yeah, I just want to be clear. This is the man you're talking about. The man in the clown makeup and the red nose. I want to be absolutely clear that this is the person you're referring to. No. No, I would not be down for that. Near. Got Near chiming in. He says, super chatting from afar. I'm not going to lie. At first glance, I thought that said super chatting from a bar. I was say, that's pretty cool. But now he says super chatting from afar. So, Near, always good to hear from you. And Naughty Delicious Chicken with Flavor. Viking Raiders against DIY. The winner gets to throw a party for Solomonster. It's not Viking Raiders. It's War Machine. War Machine against DIY. There's a distinct difference between War Machine and the Viking Raiders. All right, so this was a fun time. Thanks for hanging out with me here on a Monday night. I hope you guys enjoyed the review for a rare, very good episode of Monday Night Raw. Right? There are sometimes good Raws. There are plenty of bad, boring Raws. But I would consider this to be a very good show tonight. And I'm going to be live with you on Wednesday night. Because Wednesday night is going to be Blood and Guts. And the AEW debut of Kota Ibushi, assuming he doesn't get lost. I did see he tweeted something earlier. He packed a bag, just one, to travel to the United States. I don't know if he's already arrived. I don't know if he's still in mid-flight. But there's a very distinct possibility that he may get lost. I hope Kenny Omega is there to pick him up at the airport. I was half expecting him to just randomly, accidentally show up on Raw tonight. Hopefully he'll make it to Boston on Wednesday. We got Blood and Guts, and of course I'll have the full live review for Blood and Guts on Wednesday night, and then of course back again for SmackDown on Friday night. SmackDown, so you know, airs on FS1, but there is SmackDown. Roman Reigns will be back on the show this Friday, and I will be here live for that as well. If you missed episode 817 of The Sound Off, 2 hours long, covered a lot of ground on the podcast yesterday, including my Dark Side of the Ring recap on Adrian Adonis. Go check that out. There's always plenty of content for you guys there, so definitely go ahead and listen to the full audio show. Be well, stay safe, have yourselves a great night, and we'll come back and do Blood and Guts on Wednesday. Until then, take care, guys. Hey, we got a super chat coming in. A late super chat from Higurashi. $10 super chat. Wanting to know, do you think the only reason that Cody Rhodes is having nothing but Brock Lesnar rematches is because Vince McMahon is trying to keep him out, or keep them out, of the title picture? Yeah, it's pretty clear they want Cody out of the title picture right now because they want to hold him off. They think the best course of action is to wait until WrestleMania next year. So that's exactly why he's working with Brock Lesnar. They don't want him in the title picture right now. I think that's pretty clear. Higurashi, thank you, man. I appreciate the super chat. All right, guys. Have a good night.